And we welcome to Noise11.com, Don Walker. It's great to catch up with you, Don, with the new album, Lightning in a Clear Blue Sky. Thanks for joining us here at Noise 11.
Thank you for having me on.
There's been a lot of chatter about the first album in 10 years. I mean, there's been a couple of Cold Chisels, a Tex Don Charlie, a live album. You've had two books in that time. I think the perception that you've been sitting around on your ass doing nothing for a decade is grossly exaggerated.
You know, quite a few albums with Cold Chisel, and three albums with Cold Chisel, one with Tex Don Charlie, and one book, and yes, all the things you
said. The songs as well, yeah.
Mm.
Well, when we get to Lightning in a Clear Blue Sky, I love the conciseness of this album. 38 minutes, 8 tracks, and really 8 stories. You know, when I put this album on and first started listening to it, it was all about what's Don going to be talking to us about this time. And that's really what this album is, isn't it? It is 8 stories put to music.
I'm curious to hear how it strikes people, because for me, it's just like it's 8 more songs. And the insights that you've just said are not won't be apparent to me until I look back on it in another year, because you're getting it fresh. You're hearing it as a fresh as a whole fresh thing. But I don't get I don't get the privilege of seeing it like that, because I've been under the hood for 15 months.
Yeah.
And a long time before that, actually writing the songs.
Well, that's right. I mean, we're hearing it as 38 minutes and 8 songs. Over what period of time, though, was it for you with the creation of these songs?
Well, some of these songs date back 20 years and more. Some of them are very recent. There are one or two that are written here only months before we went into record. So it's a range there. The process of workshopping the songs or teaching them to the band and finding out what works and what not was essentially post-COVID. Although we did a certain amount of file sharing, as did everybody else under COVID.
I guess opening up with the first song on the album, Empty Dance Hall, and that one to me paints an image of days gone by. It's a song that opens the album, but it sounds like a song that could close a movie.
Well, I'd say thank you. It's not a new song. It's a song where I wrote the music first on the piano, which is a rare way to work. In the house I was living in 20 years ago, it was a big house, and I had a room with a beautiful expanse of parquetry floor and my piano in there. So I used to go down there some mornings with a DAT machine and just make up a piece of piano music in real time. And this is one of those where I liked the piano music and the melody, which had been written in about 4 minutes, and it still sounded good a year later. So I tried to write some lyrics to it. And that's I can't think of ever having worked that way before.
How does a song like that stay around for 20 years and not get used?
Well, there's a bunch of them. There's quite a few ideas. Some are ideas, some are 98% finished, but I can't quite solve a problem here or there. And some of them are finished songs, and they're just sitting there waiting for the right moment when I'm recording something or when somebody's looking. And they, you know, if a bunch of them fit together and seem to make sense together, in a vague way, well, that's an album.
That song in particular is very much a statement of time, isn't it? Almost the message of the grass is always greener on the other side is coming through in the meaning of the lyrics.
It's a heart is empty unless somebody is there to light it up. It hasn't been lit up for a long, long time. If you don't come in, it's going to stay dark.
Jungle Pam, another interesting song, and this one you say you did create during COVID. It's interesting that the world stopped during COVID, but creativity blossomed, didn't it?
For me, it didn't make a lot of difference in the creativity side of things, because I just continued doing what I always do, which is sporadically writing. And I don't think that intensified. COVID didn't make much difference to me, except in the creative side. It just made a lot of difference in terms of, like everybody else, where I could go and what I could do.
The first song, Empty Dance Hall, which, took its growth period over about 20 years. This one seemed to have just happened in the last couple of years.
Oh, yes. The lyrics were written under COVID. That was one of the songs I was working on. It was triggered by reading a story of the real Jungle Pam, who was the wife of a drag racer in America in the 70s. But I was very drawn to her story and very drawn to the name and how she came to get that name. The lyrics, apart from the name, the lyrics took off in another direction that don't actually have a lot to do with the real Jungle Pam, the person, who must be quite an old lady now. And then so that was a set of lyrics. The rest of it, the music, really happened when the first time that I got with the other guys I work with, got into a room past COVID. We rented, Jim Magini's got a little studio up on the Northern Beaches, and everybody came in and we just spent 2 or 3 days in there just enjoying the idea of the experience of being in one room again and playing music. And one of those moments, probably driven by Roy Payne, our guitar player, this piece of music came out and I realised that the lyrics could fit. So it's a co-write around the band.
When I win the lottery, the first thing I thought about when I heard that song is Don Walker plays the lottery.
Why would that be a surprise?
Well, to me, your career, you've won the lottery just in your career alone.
I have been very lucky, no question. I have played the lottery all my life. The lottery is just the stock market for poor people. And I got 2 lottery tickets now, one that was drawn on Tuesday and one that was drawn last night. And that's not because of this song. That's a standard week every month or so for me. I'll go and buy a couple of lottery tickets. Usually, if I'm passing posters that have where the jackpot has a 0 on it, that compels me into the newsagent. The dreams of how I'll spend the lottery winnings are probably a little different with my person than in the song, because the person that I am in the song is somebody who would take the lottery winnings and run amok and do a whole lot of things that they can't do without that money. All of those things I could pretty much do without winning the lottery in real life. I could sign off with you now and go over to Crown Casino and, rent some rent some supermodels. But it just if that ever crosses my mind, I think, oh, let's leave that till tomorrow.
So what would be the dream? What would be the big purchase tomorrow if you won the 20 mil this week?
I don't have a super expensive car or anything like that, and I wouldn't get one. I think probably what I'd do is pay off kids and nieces and nephews mortgages, I'd pay off family members' mortgages, something as mundane as that, which I suspect that's what most people would do with a lottery win.
My Maleva. Now, that's an older song.
That's an old song that a complete song that I just had a lot of trouble for many years coming up with a title. It was originally written as My Malevo, and it was written for a female voice. And I demoed it that way. A Malevo, as I, according to what I knew originally, is an Argentinian, knife fighting, slum dwelling pimp, probably gay. And as far as I understand the word, I don't speak Spanish. And I thought I'd really like to do this song myself. So, being what I am, the object needs to be a woman. And I was trying out all these Spanish female names, and nothing seemed to work for 20 years. And I thought, well, I'll just change the O to the A on the end, turn it to the female.
And there we have it. Like you, Don, grew up glued to the television, watching Tommy Hanlon on TV. I love the fact that you've created some history around him with the song Tommy Hanlon's Motorhome. We were fascinated by Americans on television, I think, around that time. There was Don Lane, there was Tommy Leonetti, and Tommy Hanlon came to us from America. And what a fascinating story he had, didn't he? He came from America to Australia, became one of the biggest stars on Australian television, then threw it all away and left it to go and run a circus.
I think of those American entertainers, he might have been the first. And they were just, maybe because, America's a bigger and brighter place, they just seemed to, and television had been there for 20 years already, they just seemed so much more comfortable and charismatic on the TV than our own stars. And he was the first of those. Of course, a massive favourite with the mums. And then in the middle of it, at the height of this television career in this new medium that had captured everybody, as had he throws it all in for a 19th century entertainment media, buys a circus. And at that point, that's when he became very intriguing and interesting to me. I must have been, 14.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that's him sort of, having all the success in the world through Australian television, but actually going back to his roots, because his parents were Carney folk. And in reading his history, he was in his parents' circus from the age of 4.
Yes, that's what I've read too. I didn't know that at the time, but of course his parents were vaudeville performers, and he was on stage as a child magician. So he would have been one of these guys who can, just in the middle of a dinner party while you're dazzled by the smile and the eyes and the raconteuring and all that, he could make the napkin disappear or pull out a pack of cards and do all that stuff, which always just flattens me when I meet people rare times that I can meet people who can do that. And I think I want to be you.
And fun fact, Tommy Hanlon was the 1962 Gold Logie winner.
Was he?
Yeah.
That's the first I've heard that. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Let's get to the epic on the album, Lightning in a Clear Blue Sky. This is a movie just waiting to be made. And definitely the longest Don Walker song ever. I mean, One Long Day was at 7:23 and managed to stretch out to 9 minutes and 50 seconds on swing shift. Lightning in a Clear Blue Sky comes in over 10 minutes long.
It's actually the third longest, Paul.
Really?
Yes.
What did I miss?
The longest is on my first solo album, which is 30 years ago now. We're All Gonna Die, and the title of the song is Three Blackbirds.
Mm-hmm.
That's about blackbirders and slave traders on the northwest of Australia. The second longest is a song called Darwin, which can only be found on the live album that I released in 2019, Live at Camelot. And that clocks in, that's somewhere around 13 or 14 minutes. So this is the third longest. I'm a big fan of most Elvis singles were under 3 minutes, and I'm a big fan of that. And I have consciously tried to do that from time to time. So I'm not a junkie for long songs.
You've had a fairly few short ones in the day. In my radio days, be the occasional chisel lined up, for your 2 minutes before the news.
With Cold Chisel, I tried to write some. Well, see, I was an Elvis fan, and early Beatles. They were all really short, and but not this one.
Are there plans to take Lightning in a Clear Blue Sky further than just a song?
I hadn't thought about that. I was just really concentrating on getting it on tape and then figuring out how to present it live, which we will be doing when we do some live shows later this month and in June. But I'd certainly be open to. Well, I'd be interested if anybody felt that way. I don't get, in general, I don't get people approaching me in that way, seeing songs as proto movies. Most movie makers have got their own ideas. You've Got to Move
brings the singers. So you've got your backing singers who are, on a number of songs on the album, but they're very much to the forefront and a sort of even more up-tempo song than the rest of the songs on the album.
Yeah, so the backing singers are Amanda Roth, Erica Dunn, and yes, that is the Erica Dunn in TFS and ModCon, and Bridget Hart, and I approached them to do an orchestration for this song, to try and add another flavour in it to help us sustain such a long song. I had long been admiring their work with a Melbourne band called Harmony, who you may or may not be aware of, Tom Lincoln's band, and they've also had a few cameo spots on Drone albums. So I thought I just and I knew them a little bit from that, and so I asked, could you come up with something? So the vocal orchestration that they come up with for this song is something that they did.
And the album finishes off with Damaged People. I guess it's almost like a footnote, a reminder, a reality check, isn't it? It's a real tasty closer for the album.
It's an old song and an old recording, and it's essentially a prayer. and um, uh, and it's the I guess the root of it is when you pray, um, which I do, and I think most people do. Are you praying into nothing? Is there anybody there? And if not, then you're free.
Hmm.
You're free of all constraints, and you don't owe the universe anything. But on the other hand, you're alone. That brings you back to the materialist contention that we're just pieces of meat walking around. We're just a chemical reaction.
Hmm.
All I have to fight that abomination is belief systems.
Hmm.
Anyway, I don't want to lead, and you don't want me to lead Noise11 into these discussions, but that's essentially what that song is, and the key is in the last two lines. You know, how you can be absolutely free, but the price of that would be that you'd be absolutely alone.
Hmm. Well, I guess, at the very least, prayer is centralizing your thoughts, isn't it?
That would be the agnostic view of it.
Hmm.
So if there is in fact nothing there, then it's just meditation.
Hmm.
It's no more than meditation.
Yeah. And agnostic is not an atheist. An
I know.
agnostic is the belief in something might be there.
That's right. Yes. And you know the old joke about the agnostic dyslexic insomniac
I don't. Please tell.
lying awake all night wondering if there's a dog.
Oh dear. Oh dear. The album is Lightning in a Clear Blue Sky. Now, we've already had the box set Blacktop. This is a bit like the James Bond box set. Like I've got a James Bond box set, and then there's a new James Bond movie. And what do you do with the extra album? It doesn't fit in the box set. Will you be expanding Blacktop to include this album at some point in the future?
You hit the nail on the head, because when we did Blacktop, I was, I had this discussion with the people who are very kindly helping me put it together, along the lines of, shouldn't we make the box a little bit wider, leave a little bit of room in there? Because if you don't, that's a statement in itself. That means this is it, and they don't expect too much more noise from you. And here we are. We've got Blacktop, which is all the heritage albums, and there's no room for this new one. I don't have any room. I don't have any. There are no plans to do a vinyl expansion of the Blacktop box set. No.
No. All right, we'll just have to go and get ourselves a rubber band and tie it to the outside.
That's right.
Don, looking forward to seeing the shows in a few weeks. How will you handle this album live? Is this going to be a complete work that you will perform?
I probably won't perform everything, but I'll be performing the long one, the big one. I have the girls on stage. I'm going all out. There's going to be a couple of mariachi trumpeters for that song. And I'll be doing probably half the rest.
Oh, I look forward to seeing it. Don Walker coming soon to a venue near you and at a record store near you right now. All right.
Thanks, Paul.